Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Noisy Neighbours podcast. Joined Friday evening by my brother Christian. Christian, how are we, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good, bro. I mean, bit of an emotional day in it for me, so it's tough. But I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to getting into it. And if there's one guy that deserves a good tribute, it's this dude we're going to talk about now.
Yeah, that's it. Probably a good introduction to obviously the massive news today. Obviously, pretty expected, but still, like you said, it's still a big thing to come out. And obviously, he's announced it himself on his own social media,
Yeah,
which is nice. Fabrizio Romano hasn't ruined everything by leaking it
yeah,
early. Kevin De Bruyne has ended 10 years at Manchester City today, or he's ending this summer. 10 years spell at the club. I can't believe how quickly that's gone.
I know.
2015 is 10 years ago, apparently, which is
I,
wild.
I saw that picture of him as well. Like, obviously, all pictures have been circulating today, and there was a picture of when he signed and how young he looked. He looks about 15. It's just crazy. It is mad.
Yeah, he had an unbelievable. Yeah, he's just a proper baby face, didn't he?
Yeah,
I mean, let's get straight into it. Obviously, a very successful period for your club, and
yeah,
also he was sort of a huge part of that.
of course.
Probably you could argue the head of the snake, really, for long stretches.
Yeah,
Um, I'm just going to come straight to you, really.
yeah.
Can you sort of explain what obviously he means to you as a fan and your club, and just I suppose your general feeling today that he obviously it's over and Father Time is undefeated, unfortunately, and yeah, he's the latest one to fall to it. So yeah, what are your feelings towards him and his career?
I feel, it is at the end of an era, and going back, just rewinding straight from the start when we signed this unproven young lad from Wolfsburg, and the English media was doing what the English media does, absolutely battering him. He was labelled a Chelsea reject, which he always refers back to himself and just kind of laughs about it. How far that guy has come and what he has done, not only for Manchester City fans, but Premier League fans alone. I think we will only really appreciate Kevin De Bruyne when he is gone. We have had legends come and go, especially in recent years. We've had David Silva, we've had Sergio Aguero, Vincent Kompany. However, this one just feels a little bit different. And I don't want to. I'm not speaking down on any of them names I've just mentioned. I think the reason I'm saying that is because if you look at them players, we did have players lined up that came in, and you didn't really see much of a difference in the team. People slotted in, and I mean it was great recruitment. Don't get me wrong, but I just think this one's a little bit different. I don't think you replace a Kevin De Bruyne, because I don't think there is another Kevin De Bruyne or anyone that's even showing signs of what the levels that guy hit. Personally, what he did for me, he came in and he changed the trajectory of my whole football club. I think you know how much of a fan I am of Pep Guardiola and what he has done in this era, and it is no one has done this in English football. However, without Kevin De Bruyne, I don't think this Pep Guardiola era has happened, or happened certainly in the way it has. We certainly wouldn't have had a four-peat. I don't think we would have had a treble. If you look at what that guy has done in big games, Champions League games, I'll just give you a little stat, Alex. So in his last 23 Champions League knockout games, appearances, he has 10 goals and 13 assists.
Yeah.
I mean, he is Mr. Clutch. Them big title moments, the big knockout games, away at the Bernabeu, last game of the season, he's the guy that steps up. When everyone else in the team is like, has that it's not our day kind of feel, he steps up.
Yeah.
And that is not someone you easily replace. And look, it's a sad day, I think, for a lot of Premier League fans. Like I say, you get a lot of these nostalgia merchants, and they always favour someone from the past. But I tell you what, I hope he is put in that bracket, because he certainly will be by Manchester City fans. But I hope he is spoken about in the right company once he is gone, because people will realise what they've not got anymore.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah,
your
no, some
thoughts?
really real good points in there, and I think, I mean, your first one about Chelsea was wild. I've not even thought of that all day. It's completely forgotten. And obviously, Salah was the
Yeah.
same, wasn't it? Both at Chelsea.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, he's just a very very consistent player, and has always been the guy in tough moments, and that is very very difficult to do because
Yeah.
the West Ham game was a very very difficult one, and you were 2-0 down, about to choke the league, and then those moments of giving up league titles or losing cup finals that you should win, they
Yeah.
get remembered more than the ones you do win.
Yeah, of
And
course.
that would have been a gaff. Villa, wasn't it?
Villa, yeah.
Villa had nothing to play for on the last day, and you were 2-0
Mm.
down, and he dragged you. I know Gundogan got the goals, but obviously De Bruyne was the one who dragged you. The player,
Yeah.
you look beaten. And I think his whole career sort of it comes back to that. It comes back to his aura, his attitude, his winning mentality. He's very, very strong mentally.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll get into him as a footballer as well, and what he does. But the mentality side of it, he has been a leader really for about 8 years now.
Yeah.
And has delivered massively, and he's been unlucky with injuries as well. Like his 2 Champions League finals, got injured in both, and he's had bad fortune as well as just how amazing he has been. But yeah, I think that looking at what he is, he is going to be missed. Obviously, I'm a United fan, so like I'm not saying I want him to make you better for the forever. Obviously, there's part of me that's like, if City take a step back, then I will be happy in that respect. But however, he is a maverick, and he's my type of player. I really admire players who can really pass the ball, and his creativity. But it's not just that with him. There was so much more to his game, and I think you hit the nail on the head there when you mentioned that you think that, what's his legacy going to look like? How are people going to look back on De Bruyne? And I think that's a really interesting question, and I've been thinking about it today, actually, because I have what I will remember him by. But I actually think that the general memory of De Bruyne from your average fan won't actually be this, which is quite strange. So in my what I remember, and what I think everybody else should remember, is the powerful player who had pace, had power, could carry it 15 to 20 yards to get himself into positions to then create. Not just a creator, he's way more than that. He isn't just a Beckham, or my favourite players. He's not just that. Like, if you go back to 2017-18, the powerful side of him, he was what Gerrard was, but way more in control than Gerrard, and way better end product. And Gerrard's an all-timer, by the way. This isn't me shading at Gerrard, but I'm just trying to explain to people where people go, Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes. Honestly, you can forget even comparing him to Gerrard and Lampard. He's way above both of them. Yeah. Scholes is obviously a different entity altogether. He was more of a controller. But as far as the powerful attacker goes, he's way above them too. Like, if you're talking about all-time 11s, there's no way Gerrard or Lampard get close to De Bruyne.
No, I'm glad you brought it up. Listen, I don't want to make this video into a trying to rage bait, or it doesn't even deserve it. I just want him to be recognised in that ilk, because I feel like you made an interesting point, and I do feel like he gets disrespected, and I feel like, listen, you can't take it too seriously, because it leads to this bullshit social media era that we unfortunately are a part of. And do you remember when Ryan Giggs, for instance, was coming to the end of his career, and people wrongly remember him? Oh, his legs have gone. He can't beat him. No, but come on, remember what that guy did. Look at the amount of assists. You can't say what he was doing at 39 and judge him by that. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, that's what people make the mistake in doing. But I think he will genuinely be missed by a lot of Premier League, true football fans in England that have been spoiled. Alex, I bring back one game. We were actually in the pub and watched this game, and it was a bit of a nothing match. Stoke City. And I know you'll remember it for funny reasons, but yeah, so we were in the pub, and that game, he was playing past it. I remember one reverse pass into Sane. Sane made a run, right? And he thought De Bruyne had missed it. He was actually shocked he made the pass. Like, Sane didn't even expect it in the end. That was how good it was. He was seeing things that other professionals, high, elite-level professionals, hadn't even seen it. He was of an unbelievable level. De Bruyne's peak in England should be remembered as one of the greatest eras of football we have ever seen. I think if he had played for a Real Madrid or a Barcelona, he was a modern day Galactico. He just wasn't celebrated like that because he played for Manchester City. And I'm not trying to whinge on that, but I think it is kind of evident. And I hope he does just get the respect he deserves. And to be fair, I have seen a lot of tributes pouring in from fans of other clubs and some great ones. Shout out LB, City Channel. He did a great tribute, and it's emotional. I saw this video, and he's with Pep Guardiola, and they were like, he was saying like, we did it, Kev, after all this time, like we won the Champions League. It's phenomenal what they did together. He's the last of that Pep era. He was the last of that first, the first bulk of players that were in there. He's the last one that's going to go, and this is what we're now a part of. That it's Pep's rebuild, and he's choosing to be a part of it. But listen, it was a special time, and I'm so grateful I got to witness it as a Man City fan, because there was times where, when I was younger and we laugh on the pod, and we've got a derby on Sunday, but we know the times that City have had some poor sides and we were not spoiled. And to think I've been blessed with watching over a decade of Kevin De Bruyne is I have been spoiled and I can never moan. Listen, if we never win another trophy, I will be happy, and I'll be able to show hopefully my kids these videos that guy produce magic week after week. And so I just couldn't think of anything better to leave it out really with him.
Yeah, I mean the Stoke game was unbelievable. They actually did the rounds on Twitter recently, his game from that, and I watched it because I do have like a funny memory of watching the game with you, and he was just out of his mind. I mean, anybody that isn't familiar, please go and look. De Bruyne, 2017-ish, 18 season,
I mean,
whatever
he played one pass and took 4 or 5 guys out of the match in one pass. It's just, and he was behind all of them when he played that pass.
What it is it's like, what makes De Bruyne very unique, and you mentioned it about how do you replace him, and the answer is you can't replace him. You have to now readapt and remold your team, and we'll get to the success you had with him in this 2017-18 team in a minute. But I just want to talk about what makes De Bruyne really unique is that he is an amazing ball striker, crossing, passing and shooting, but he can do that at the end of a sprint consistently. This isn't like Gerrard has some loud moments, right? Gerrard could do it at the end of a sprint, but it wasn't consistent. He was actually quite rash, Gerrard. He overhit passes, he overhit long passes, he's shooting every so often, one to fly in. De Bruyne's accuracy at the end of that dribble and the power within that dribble is what makes it
power and accuracy.
That's it's simple. It's like, you cannot teach it. You either have a great delivery, like say a Beckham was, or you have someone that's unbelievably powerful who can consistently go past multiple people, but then can't deliver at the end of it. He was the blend of both, and the thing is as well, he didn't even have to get into the box. It was just the 25 to 30 yard zone of the pitch. He was lethal. The corridor of uncertainty is like a 5 yard width of a cross where your striker has to stay on side, and but you can't deliver it this side for the defender or that side for the keeper. He just accurately hit that over and over again, and that comes from repetition. By the way, he will have practiced that so much on the training pitch,
of course,
and he got his rewards. He will go down as an all-time great. I'm convinced he will go down as one of the all-time Premier League midfielders. There's no doubt about it. And depending on the system you pick, if you play 4-3-3 I know eras have changed, so it's hard to sort of, if you play 4-4-2, he would probably be on the right wing, for example. But in this era of a 4-3-3 era, he's in that Premier League 11 in that inside right. You can forget it. You ain't getting anybody else in there. It's not even close, honestly. Who was even close to getting in over De Bruyne in it?
I'm glad you said that, and I wanted to make a point on this, Alex. I am really glad you brought it up, and I think going back to the comment I made in the Pep Guardiola era of dominance of this Premier League, and I don't think it happens without Kevin De Bruyne. We've had players, I remember the system when we had Fernandinho, we have David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, and then De Bruyne has been a part of a few different midfields, most recently Rodri, Gundogan. However, I just don't think the way we have played under Pep, we would have never had that cutting edge and we would have never got titles over the line. I'm telling you this factually, it would not have happened without him. we would have still performed good and we would have still looked good. We would not have had that cutting edge. We relied on that guy more than you will ever know. And I think people will pin a lot of this season on, Rodri, and, we know the reasons behind that. But I think the De Bruyne dropping off is massive. And I think you have seen, I'm not saying to the level, of course, De Bruyne has really, fell off this season. But you have seen what we really had all these years. And when he's out of the system and suddenly you put in a Foden or someone else in that, you're not going to get anywhere near to that level. And that's not disrespecting the guys coming in. That's me complimenting how good De Bruyne was, how high his level was. And even, Alex, if you go into the market, like you said, you don't replace him. You hear names like Florian Wirtz. Say we go and drop 150 million on Florian Wirtz. It doesn't do anything for me in terms of a De Bruyne. You've got to change the way you play. You've got to remodel like Liverpool have. That's how they've gone again, and they've got a league title over the line, it looks like. And I think that's the way we need to go. There is no one in the market to think, oh, there's a like-for-like replacement. We were very fortunate. Company when Diaz came in, great. We were very lucky in terms of David Silva. We had Bernardo coming into his peak. He stepped in. Very lucky with Sergio Aguero. Erling Haaland came in. We know what Haaland is, just a born goal scorer. This time round, that can't happen. There is no one in world football currently doing what De Bruyne has done, or is even still doing game to game. And I think this is where we find ourselves, and we've got to just go in a different avenue, but really appreciate what we have had. And I think a lot of City fans, we have been spoiled with the amount of players we have had. Prime Bernardo, De Bruyne. I mean, I saw a game of, it was like a PSG knockout game, and I saw the bench, and I was just like, my God, the players we had, like Mahrez, we had about, and Jesus and stuff, and like these guys are pivotal Premier League players now. And we have been spoiled, but I do feel like we've got to just call a spade with De Bruyne. He's one of the greatest, an all-time great, in my opinion. I'm glad from an opposition point of view, you have a similar opinion. I know he played for the opposite side of Manchester, but I think what's annoying for me is, and I'm so glad you've noticed it, and I said it all over these years of De Bruyne and how powerful he was. When you talk of like big sprinters and powerful players in the Premier League, you go Yaya Tourés, your Paul Pogba's. No one really thinks of De Bruyne in that realm, but he was actually the best at it. He was the most consistent over a prolonged period of time. Yes, Yaya was amazing that one season. De Bruyne has been doing it for fucking 6 years at a peak of like high level. That's how long he's been doing it for. I know he's been great for longer periods, but that peak period where he was charging box to box and slapping 20-yard shots in the top corner. You know what I mean?
Go and check film. Go and check film from the 100-point season. The 100-point season doesn't happen. I don't know where you would have landed, but people coming into that season, it's easy to look back and go, oh, it was a great side. But when he started that season, funny story actually, me and you watched one of Guardiola's first games, and he actually played Silva and De Bruyne in a 4-3-3, either side of Fernandinho. And we were sat there going, no way it's going to work. No way it's going to work. This was the feeling behind it. Like, obviously, that season wasn't great, but it wasn't their fault. It was because of the back line wasn't very good. And then you go and spend money on the defence, and the next season you go and get 100 points. Him being an inside midfielder was something that we'd never seen before in that position of a number 10 sacrificing himself. And he's aggressive, he's powerful, he's quick. Amazing ball striking, the long shooting, the goal against Chelsea when he breaks through, takes it onto his left foot. I was just looking at some stats because obviously I know he's second all time to Giggs in assists. I was just looking at other stuff in there about the goals. So 70 goals he got in the Premier League. 46 with his right foot, one header, which I have no recollection of, and 23 with his weak foot for a shooter. By the way. This is phenomenal. 23 left-footed goals for De Bruyne out of his 70. Hit the woodwork 31 times. That's accuracy. That's how good he was at shooting. You're inches away from that being 100 Prem goals. I know everyone hits the post and crossbar. I'm just saying that it's a huge number to hit the woodwork 31 times in 10 years for a guy who's missed games as well. And then obviously the assists are ridiculous. 118 assists. I'm not getting into chances created. I hate that stat. We know how amazing his chance creation was. You don't need numbers to tell you that. But second all time to Giggs is phenomenal, really. And obviously no one's going to beat Giggs unless they play for 15, 16 years, which doesn't seem to be the way nowadays. And look, no one's judging any of these players, by the way. If they want to go and make 4 times their salary in the twilight of their career in a hot country, look, absolutely fair play to you. And you know, maybe in another era, Giggs, Scholes and that ilk might have done the same. But no one's going to probably break Giggs. He's number one from the rest of them in assists, which is amazing. Never got a red card. The tackling stats are really impressive. 328 tackles, 63% tackle success rate for a guy who was meant to be a number 10 when he came to the country.
I think that's a good point, Alex, as well, is what he actually transitioned to. You touched on that game we went to, the first Pep game, and we all said, we were looking at the system, we were like, there's no way them two midfielders can play together. David Silva is very lightweight, intricate footballer, but he's not going to have the energy. Neither one of them seemed like a box-to-box player at that time. De Bruyne transitioned himself under Pep, so big up Pep. What Pep has done with him, he had a world-class player, there is no doubt. He walked in and De Bruyne was world-class, but what he took him to was an all-time Premier League great. He gets now talked about, for me, in the same era of a Thierry Henry, a Eden Hazard, the Premier League greats, the best that we have seen in England. He is in that category now. And I do think a lot of that, he does owe to Pep. You know, he's worked hard himself, but I think Pep changed him. He became this weird box-to-box number 8 that could somehow, after a 20-yard sprint, smash it in the bottom corner. And like you said, his accuracy, I've just never really seen anything like it, to be fair. You know, people compare now. I see comments online like talking about Valverde, and I'm a big Valverde fan. But people just aren't aware. You need to watch Kevin De Bruyne in his prime. These guys, dude, they're not near. They're not in the same fucking stratosphere.
No.
You know what I mean? I feel like it's laziness. I mean, it might just be an era thing. They might be younger lads and they're watching it from now Kevin De Bruyne, and they're watching Valverde and going, oh yeah, well, he's better. But seriously, the level he was at, you need to go back, watch videos and enjoy it, because I could spend a whole day watching Kevin De Bruyne highlights and you will never get bored.
No, it's true. I mean, I you know, guiltily watch the odd one myself if it does the rounds on Twitter, and I'm a United fan, so that's the biggest compliment anybody can get, really, because I'm certainly not sitting there, and a few of them have been against my team. He was, I think, in Mourinho's first derby. I think we both started the season really well, and the first 45 minutes, he just put on an absolute clinic. I don't even think you had a striker. I think Ian Acho might have played. And
you are right.
He was just like levels above all players on that pitch. And it was probably around that time, actually, where I really started to think, oh my God, this guy. I mean, that's the thing as well. Obviously, Pep has moulded him into whatever he has become, but his versatility is another thing. He can play anywhere along the front line, anywhere, number 8, number 10, false 9. He's just so good at. But I just want to say, like, anybody that's played football, watching this, you've played football, and it doesn't matter what level. If you play football and you carry the ball 15 yards and you're blowing, and at the end of that, you've got to strike it with somebody in front of you or somebody next to you or somebody trying to shrug you off. This is the hardest thing you can do in football, and he makes it look easy. And that's the biggest thing. The biggest compliment you can pay him is that he can sprint with the ball and do something at the end of it more than anybody else in maybe football history, except maybe Messi. And that's it, basically. It's so hard to maintain the balance, to strike it cleanly, to keep your breathing right. He does it all the time. He does it perfectly. And
I think at the time as well. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was just gonna finish on the other week when he took that left foot shot and it went just miles wide, and it felt like that was his moment. That was his moment where it's like, that's not me.
Oh shit. Yeah.
That's never been me. I've never.
I was gonna bring that up. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. And that's just the flip side of that is what can happen to your mortal players who are not blessed, or like he's talented. I'm sure he's worked at it as well, like I said earlier. But I'm just saying that I think that when you're at the end of a dribble or at the end of a sprint and you're off balance and you're blowing a little bit, it's miss hits, off balance, lean back. We're going to get to somebody who does that consistently in a podcast in a minute, who plays for my team. And I'm telling you, what he does to maintain that that composure at the end of his dribbling for crossing, shooting, passing is phenomenal. And I think history will be very kind on De Bruyne. I actually think that in 5 years' time,
Yeah.
people will look at him and actually grade him higher than maybe they do now.
Yeah, I think, I do agree with you. I think that will happen. Like I said, I think it's just a world we live in where a lot of people lean to this nostalgia thing, don't they? And I do think in time he will be appreciated, even if at this moment he might not be put in the same realm as certain players that I think he should be put in the same as. But listen, we have enjoyed it and we have watched the best of KDB over these years, and I'm just, like I say, mate, I couldn't be more grateful. We have had genuinely the best time, and he took us to a different level, undoubtedly. You know, we could compete with the European elites. It felt like we went away to PSG. Little flashbacks. He got a goal against PSG at home in the Champions League. It was like we were a team that limped out in these stages, and we had these players that they were class, but they sort of accepted that we weren't one of European elites.
No, I think it's a great point.
This won't be a popular comment that I'm about to make, but I'm going to be honest. A few of our legends, there was a little bit of an acceptance in Europe that we were allowed to just limp out in certain rounds. He seemed the only guy who would go, no, fuck that. I'm grabbing this game by the scruff of the neck. I will bang one in from 25 yards. Lyon, away. PSG, home. Bernabeu, away. Bro, endless. Barcelona at home, free kick. He was that guy. And you don't get them personalities that come along too often. You touched on it yourself. They are a rare breed. And when they do come along, they are special. So
he's a big dog, and he always has been a big dog player. And some people are born with it, some people aren't. And I think Torre, Silva, Aguero, for as good as they were not naturally your bigger mentality as him. And I think he definitely was like, no, we're going to the Bernabeu and we're winning, by the way. And you're not always going to do that. And that's the thing, like what separates equal players. We did Foden and Bellingham the other week. That can be a big difference in big moments in games and tournaments, and that's something that he blessed with, or whatever he's done. He's worked at it, I mean, I think he should have been your captain a long time ago. Really, I know he's sort of finished his career as your captain, but just looking at the assist numbers, and I know we've done the total. He's second all time to Giggs. These are his 4 best seasons in assist totals: 20. 18 and 16 twice in 4 seasons. 20. He had a 20 assist season in 1920.
And you know what's worth noting in a few of them, Alex, is Pep was tinkering with the system massively, and we were playing a false 9. He played with, I don't want to get a Sterling, but he also played with the likes of Raheem Sterling, Sane. I'll put him in the same bracket. They were quite wasteful because ultimately they weren't number 9s, they weren't finishers. De Bruyne could have had way more than that. I mean, imagine we'd have seen prime De Bruyne with Haaland throughout all these years. It would have just been ridiculous. The number you could have inflated them numbers massively. Maybe could have ended up touching Giggs. Who knows? But
no, you're right.
You're so right. And Alex, just while you're on numbers, I just wanted to read this to you. I mean, I looked at his remarkable CV. I'll just read some to you. So there was a list that I had to actually refine. So I didn't want to bore you all day. 6-time Premier League winner, which is just phenomenal. 5-time League Cup winner, 2-time FA Cup winner, 2 Community Shields, 1 Champions League, 5-time FIFA Pro World 11, 5-time PFA Premier League Team of the Year, which, I mean, that is some fucking feat.
That's it all.
3-time UEFA Team of the Year, again, unbelievable. 3-time Premier League Playmaker Award, never really heard that one. 2-time Premier League Player of the Season, and 2-time PFA Players Player of the Season. By the way, 2-time is disgusting from other players voting. That does surprise me. But with a CV like that, he goes out as a bona fide legend, and not just to Manchester City fans. I think football fans worldwide, certainly.
But I think the team awards reflect him really perfectly, really, because he was a great team player, and the individual awards, it's difficult because he's not a forward. I'm guessing that in the if you call it 9 years in the Prem, well, let's say 7, because this year in his first he was not at the level. If you say 7 years of prime time De Bruyne, there will have been in there a Hazard season. Salah's probably had multiple seasons, and that's the problem he was dealing with. Maybe Aguero might have had one. Do you know what I mean? So I think for a midfielder to win player twice is an incredible achievement on the flip side.
It is, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, also I just want to mention as well that obviously he was part of the Belgian golden era, which it looks like that's coming to an end as well. And I just want to mention that, maybe they get looked at a little bit like they failed because they didn't win a tournament. World Cup 2018, he slapped a goal in against Brazil.
Yeah.
And got them to the semis and just got basically shithoused out by fucking France, who were just depressing to watch.
Yeah.
And that's why, quote unquote, they didn't get to the final against Croatia. They might have won that tournament, and they were great in that tournament. Him and Hazard were class. And yeah, delivering like that on a big stage against Brazil is just another iconic thing to mention, really.
Yeah, of course it is.
I'm very, very unlucky.
I'm glad you brought that up, because he does get disrespected that he didn't do it on the bigger stage, and that is one thing that always pisses me off. I saw Robbie Lyle, and he was actually saying that, he said, "Is De Bruyne world class?" It isn't related to today him leaving. I saw this a few weeks back, weirdly, on YouTube. Yeah. He said, "Can De Bruyne be classed as a world class player because he hasn't done it on a world level?" It's just absolute bollocks. So you're saying we can't judge Kevin De Bruyne by his whole career, by 99.9% of what we've seen of him. We have to go off the point now, the last 1% that of a World Cup, which he's playing with, players that are a bit unpredictable. I'll give you Lukaku being one. Dries Mertens, fucking Carrasco. These were the guys he was actually playing with. When you look at this golden era. Yeah, you did have Eden Hazard and you did have Kevin De Bruyne, but they did lack in other areas, let's be honest. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think people overlook that. People have said this golden era because they included players like Axel Witsel and players like that who never really amounted to anything. And when they did get a move, they ultimately flopped. Do you know what I mean? So
they weren't world class in every position. They were recognisable in every position. They probably had Alderweireld and Vertonghen were elevated because they played together at Tottenham. That was all.
Company, of course, but Company had massive injury issues as well. So we didn't really see the best of him in a Belgium shirt.
They did great, and they were very unlucky in 2018. I think outside of England, I would have liked them to win it.
Me too.
Yeah, the Brazil game was amazing, and he delivered with it. Again, I mean, just look at how clean he strikes that ball, man. It's very, very hard skill, and anybody that's played football at any level knows how difficult it is to do that, and never mind at the end of dribbles and sprints like we've spoke about. So I mean, there's no word about where he's going. I think MLS he's odds on.
I would absolutely love him to go to Inter Miami and link up with Messi. I just think that would just be incredible. I know they've got Suarez, haven't they? So it'd probably be difficult, because my idea would be Messi central. He can be a bit more lazier in his latter years, protect himself for another tournament. De Bruyne whipping them crosses in. It's just a dream of mine that I would love to see. Yeah. I know you would as well.
I mean, obviously them two on the pitch together be iconic, and certainly make a good story for, even if it's just a year, and probably would have some people tune into Miami games, which is incredible.
For sure.
But yeah, man. So let's see. I think that'd be a great move for him. And look, he's earned the right to do whatever he wants. Like I said, this era is changed from back in the day, and you're not going to. I don't think you're going to see 16 years in the Prem anymore from players, because they ultimately have a equivalent of a pension scheme in either America or in Saudi, and why should they not go and create generational wealth for their family and future generations, their children's kids? And look, he's had a great career, and I think he put it in his statement perfectly that every footballer is going to have this day, no matter how great you are, and we're seeing that now we spoke about Messi, like. In our opinion, the best of all time is playing in MLS. It doesn't matter how good you are. Father Time is undefeated, and it will catch everyone. And unfortunately, it's caught him this season, maybe back end of last season. But fair play to him. What a career, what a player. And I think it's going to be a big a big summer ahead for City. I'm sure we'll get into it on a separate pod, but
Yeah.
like you said, it looks like a remolding of the team and the setup. I think to cover him. I don't think you're not gonna plug someone in for him. I don't think.
No. What I admire about De Bruyne as well is he's bowing out, I think, at the right time. You are still seeing some games. I mean, I've said this numerous times on pods, even at the start of the year before any of this news or contract situation was about. You're going to get them games where De Bruyne will show you flashes of what he is capable of, because from a dead ball, he is unbelievable, and he will continue doing this till he retires, because he has got an ability that not many players possess in world football. But I do feel like he's moving on at the right time. I think he's made the right call. And you know what? I'd love us to go out the rest of the season, win that FA Cup. He can lift it. He can bow out right at the top like he deserves.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to do it for him. And not only that, I mean, De Bruyne is more than capable of playing a pivotal role in this cup run, because he is still one of our best players. It's just that he has come to a point in his career where, his time does need to be managed. England is taxing. Playing in England is taxing. And me and you've discussed numerous times how playing in England has really changed, especially these last couple of years. Teams like Bournemouth, they're becoming more physical. They're hounding you. And
Guardiola's setup is physical as well. It's demanding.
Of course it is, yeah, and mentally draining. You look at a young lad, Phil Foden, he's coming out and saying he's struggling mentally with mental fatigue. De Bruyne has been doing this year after year after year. And by the way, some crushing seasons. The Champions League losses to Monaco, Lyon, there were some real tough ones in there. And none of which I could put on him, to be fair. The shortcomings were elsewhere in the team. But I just think fair play to Kev, what a player we have had over these years, and I hope he goes on. And I'd love to see him with Messi, but wherever he goes, I'm sure he'll light up for the next few years and give some other fans a lot of joy as well.
Yeah, no, I think there's a decent amount of juice left for this season. Hopefully not enough for Sunday, which we're going to do the derby preview in a minute. But now, for real, look, if I'm not going to be cheering City on, but I certainly won't be. I certainly won't be angry if you go and win it, and he lifts it as his parting gift for not only City fans but obviously the Prem and fans like myself who do admire very good footballers, and he is a player that I admire personally because he's my type of player. So I think.
Just one quick thing, Alex, as well. I saw. I was just watching a little bit of City streams were popping off, obviously today with the with the breaking of this news, and LB was reading some things that when De Bruyne joined and he did interviews with City TV and stuff, and one of the things was he joined and he said, "I hope we can enjoy some good times and maybe win a few things together." Now, it's just amazing, and it is quite emotional to think not only did you do that, you surpassed every expectation, and you gave us times that listen, we might not ever have again. We certainly won't have a player like you again. So thanks, KDB.
Yeah, he's a unique player and a unique blend of skills that don't usually happen. Try and pick a comparison, and that explains it all. Of previous present. They're certainly not present because I think the pool of footballers is quite shy at the moment. But
it's just one of them things. It's like when I used to love that Premier League show. When it shows you the highlights of 2008 and stuff like that. And listen, I grew up in an era where, of course, I hated Man United because they were doing everything I wanted my club to do and more. But when you look back and there's Rooney flashbacks and things like that, you get them players that you've just got to enjoy. And when you look back at them, you're like, fuck me, because they don't come around often. Or if ever again. Are we ever going to see another Wayne Rooney really in the Premier League? Yeah. Maybe not. Maybe not in our lifetime. But you enjoy it while it's there and we can look back on it. And so I think that's it. Yeah, best way to play, really.
Rooney was a mentalist, wasn't he? And
that one, it was specifically, just a clip I saw the other day. When he went in for that challenge, the bald Rooney when he absolutely smashes into that challenge on his shin
in that season,
and then fucking volleys it in.
He's just he was a unique blend of skill, especially for a striker. Fucking hell.
Smoking 20 a day and then banging in volleys from 30 yards.
He was gifted, talent-wise and physically at 16. But I think shout out to De Bruyne, man, and wish him all the best. Seems a nice guy
For sure, man.
from what I've seen, and he's earned the right to go and pick where he wants to play. And if you want to go and play with Messi in Miami, mate, why
Please
not?
do it,
Eh?
KDB.
What a way to obviously you potentially win City the FA Cup and go to Miami in the summer with your family and play with Messi, man. I mean, that is as good as it gets, I think. So
yeah, facts.
Christian, tough day, but thanks for joining us to talk
Cheers
about
for that,
it.
mate. Loved
and
it.
we'll catch you on the next. Laters.